Hey, welcome to the Church Explained podcast, a conversation to grow your leadership and build your church. Today we've got an amazing guest, the whole way from the US of A. We've got Mark Kresge with us today. Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think it's good just to pick up on that idea, Mark, that courageous conversations don't need to be confrontational. I think often leaders will make the mistake and they will think, actually, this needs to be confrontational. But I guess if you've got that in your organization where you're meeting with people week on week, then actually that courageous conversation becomes a little bit easier to do. Now, Nathan did ask you, like, how did you grow into that? Because obviously not like dealing with conflict and all that. So how did you get to the place where actually this is okay? Was it just recognizing the fact that it's good for the person? Or was it something else?
Yeah, I'd say that was one of the big things that has helped me is mentorship and coaching myself. So it was number one, it was great for someone to call that out in me and say, hey, Mark, as a leader, this is going to be a lid for you if you don't learn how to acknowledge this and move into this. So I think awareness of it was number one. I am avoiding, some of these moments and I didn't realize it. So number one, it helped to have a coach or mentor in my life call that out. But then two, I think it was just a shifting in perspective. Like you said, it doesn't have to be confrontational. At the end of the day, when we have conflict or when we have this courageous conversation, it doesn't have to be aggressive. It can be very caring and loving. And I think just for me, it was realizing it empowered me so much to feel like this isn't something I'm taking away from someone. It's actually something I'm adding to them. And that helped motivate me really to have those conversations. And I always position it that way in a conversation. Hey, let me help you. Hey, at the end of the day, this might feel like a very difficult conversation to have, but at the end of the day, I genuinely care about you. And I want to help you get to a place where you feel like you are thriving. And then at the end of the day, we want the organization to thrive as well. And so I'll do my best. And if I've done my job up to that point in building rapport and credibility, to be someone who doesn't lord my authority over someone, but really truly serves them. If I've done my job up to that point, I've made enough deposit where there's now trust, which I think is where healthy teams are built, is in a foundation of trust and rapport with one another. So that's been my process of the journey.
Yeah, so good.
I love that.
Yeah. No, that's great. And there's so much for like a leader to take away. There's things for them to take away around this idea of building teams and staffing and there's just little nuggets, and I'm going to be thinking on that ownership thing. And thank you, Mark, because I'm nicking that. That's such a great thought. I wonder, you mentioned earlier you've transitioned role and you've started this project called the Collaborative Project with your wife Natalie. I wonder if you could just share a little bit about what that is, and just let us know what it is.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. It's a really unique season for us. We really sensed that God was leading us into a new season, and it was about a 2-year journey of transition, which I've even heard on this podcast some great conversations on transition that were helpful. And so it was a great transition, ultimately ended up being very good. And just really, my wife and I just have a real passion for serving the local church. And so as we moved into this new season, God just began to stir our hearts for what does that look like? How do we serve? How do we come alongside? So the Collaborative Project really is about that, is how do we just help collaborate with local churches to help develop them? So what that's looked like for me is a lot of what we're doing here today. It's been a lot of staff development. It's been training, resourcing them. Sitting down and just using 13 years of experience, in a fairly large church and saying, we've seen some things, we've been through some things, we've learned some stuff. And so we'll travel, particularly in the United States here where we're at. We have a deep passion for the UK as well. That's something that God has really laid on our heart. And so we connect and we do some things there in the UK we'll talk about. So I do some staff leadership development, itinerant ministry. Is a big part of what I do. So I'll travel and preach and teach in churches on a Sunday morning or, some conferences and things like that. We also, we launch short-term mission trips for local churches here in the United States. So we've realized that there was a big gap for, some churches here that some they can hire on a missions pastor who have a real global perspective. Some don't, though. Some don't have the bandwidth or the team. So my wife and I will help serve by taking teams from the United States. I'm taking a team to Belize in this November, to Orange Walk in Belize City. I'm bringing another team actually to the UK next June. And so right now working on that process. And so, and again, to serve the local church, we're asking churches, if we were to come over here, what can we do to help serve the needs of your church? And so, again, it's a collaborative effort to see the good news and good deeds, to see people saved and connect to the kingdom. So it's been a big process. Also through this process has been, I work for and collaborate with a great company called Glorify. Glorify is a Christian app, and it's kind of a startup. But it has taken off over the last year and a half. And so I've connected through our nonprofit as a part of that team and helped connect it. So it's a Christian discipleship tool. It's a pastoral tool. What we know about phones today is that they're ontological, is that people see them as a part of who they are now. It's the reason when you leave your home and you forget your phone, it feels like you've left your arm somewhere, right? Like your phone is a part. And so we want to redeem that space, and we want to help people really build some rhythms of daily worship in their life. And it's been really highly successful, 8 million downloads, and really just moving and growing in that space. The church is embracing it. People who are far from the church but maybe once had a really deep relationship with Jesus, we find that many of them are finding this as a tool. And so it's been a process, a great process of connecting to that team. They're actually a UK based team, so it's been really a delight to connect to them. So it's been great. And so that's been our passion. We have a great value for the foster system. My wife and I have been foster parents for years, so we really help with some reform in the system. We do our best to do that, and so we have a real value for it. But that's the collaborative project. Really, it's just an expression of who we are as kingdom builders and wanting to serve the local church.
Mark, that's fantastic. We love that. And just great to hear about the Glorify app as well. We know lots of people are using it in the UK. And I know you've been to the UK recently, so I just want a couple of questions really. What was your sort of biggest takeaway? What did you enjoy the most? What was it like for you being here in the UK recently?
Oh man, the fish and chips. It's probably by far the biggest takeaway.
That is the takeaway,
No, it was always an amazing experience. I love the UK. I was in London with a group of leaders from really all around the world, from Australia, Canada, the United States, South Africa. Just came together to really discuss what is God doing for this next season of the church, particularly for the UK. And got to sit down with several leaders that are just doing some significant work and just to glean and to learn and to just take some wisdom away. And I'd say that was so impactful for me, just to see how God is moving there in the UK. We had the opportunity to sit down with N.T. Wright at a church there in Oxford, and just to receive from him. That was probably a bucket list item for me. Someone who has really profoundly impacted my theology and my view of God and the church and people. And so that was significant. And one thing that was really encouraging while we were there is one of the vicars of St. Aldate's Church. He told me, he said, I've seen more people come to Jesus in the last 6 months here in Oxford than I have in the last 24 years combined. Wow. And that was so refreshing to me. And he used the language of, we see this as another awakening. And so to me, to see that the Spirit of God is moving, that the church is awakened, is alive, doing their job, advancing the kingdom, that was really encouraging for me to see that God is moving in a really profound way right now in the UK. And it encouraged me, and I brought that back even here in the United States, and for the work that we will do in the UK in the days to come. It was amazing. But the fish and chips were amazing. Yeah,
that was the thing for you.
Did you?
Well, listen, we always love to. Go ahead.
I was going to ask Dave. Did he have gravy, curry sauce, or mushy peas with his fish and chips?
Ooh. That is the question.
That is the question. So I did have mushy peas. I don't think I had any gravy. I guess I should have had gravy. Yeah?
Yeah.
Curry sauce.
Curry sauce.
Curry sauce.
Okay.
Next time.
Okay. So the next time I come over, That will be the first. That will be my first thing that I eat. Mushy peas were great, though. Yeah, it's great. It was a great time.
Yeah, you enjoyed those. Listen, I think that's the best question of the whole podcast so far today. So
it's a deep revelation. Yes.
Yeah, deep revelation. For anybody traveling to the UK, fish and chip with curry sauce and mushy peas. That's what you have to have.
That's funny.
Hey, listen, we've got some sort of quick fire questions for you today, Mark. As we're getting towards the end of our podcast, we've had some great stuff in there around leadership and staff development, all that stuff. We've got a few sort of quick questions. So are you ready for these today?
I love it. Let's do it.
Okay, so the first one is this. What is your favorite way to stay healthy?
Oh, great.
Besides the fish and chips.
So forget the fish and chips for right now. I would say really my family, as a family, we have a pretty holistic approach. And for us, that looks like building healthy rhythm into our life. And so for us, a rhythm is a regular repeated pattern. And so we just had the discussion of what patterns do we want to really implement into our life. And so we do that in a couple areas. We want to have a rhythm of rest in our life, that we Sabbath well. We have a full 24-hour period where we don't do any work, which is very anti-American, right? And so we choose a day. For us, that's Thursday evenings all the way to Friday evening, basically Saturday morning, of no work. It's full rest. And so we have a rhythm of rest. We have a rhythm of prayer in our life as a family. We pray together. My wife and I, we're discipling our son in that right now as a 4-year-old, teaching him what it means to pray and to do that as a family. We have a rhythm of work. We're pretty scheduled out as a family. And my wife is an accountant, and so her brain works in spreadsheets, and she's very organized. And so I just thank God every day for her ability to help do that in us. I would say even staying healthy would be, just working out. And, we love to swim, compete. Again, working out in competition is always so much easier for me. So I try to do that through hobbies and, basketball. I play what we call soccer, what you would call football. And, so that's a big deal for us. And, football. So, and then I'd say a rhythm of relationship. For us, we make sure that we stick pretty closely with some good friends, deep relationships. We always make time in our calendar, our diary, every week for some really rich relationship time as well. So I would say that's our holistic approach, to walking that out in a healthy lifestyle.
Awesome. So, Mark, if you could write a book, what would the subject be?
Well, great question. I'm writing a book right now, and it is on identity and purpose. So that was an easy one.
Hey, we linked that in well there. We didn't even know that, but it's linked in well.
It's linked in well. So identity and purpose, basically activity drives activity. Identity drives activity. And so how your identity in Christ really does unlock your potential and purpose. And so I'm actually just finished chapter 1. So that's the one I would write. Awesome. Maybe another one on marriage and family, and then leadership, organizational health. Leadership is probably what I would write on as well, since you're asking me.
So that's a trilogy of books coming our way. Yes. Then. That's what we need to look at.
Free copies are coming your way. You guys might be the only ones to read them, but and my wife will probably read some of it.
Yeah. Oh, your wife will do it for you. So next question is this. What are you most excited and challenged about? We've been asking this question to quite a number of our guests recently. Yeah. So we want your take on the same question. What are you challenged about and excited about?
That's a great question. Well, what we probably covered is transition. I'm in a season of transition still. I'm in this new season, probably about 4 months now that I've been, I've transitioned from my previous role into this new season of building a nonprofit, into serving the church, to connecting to our glorified team. And it's so exciting. And at the same time, it's challenging to transition from one real set mold of a season to another. And so it's exciting to discern and walk out now what our new reality will be. But of course, there's tensions that come with that and moving in that way. So it's a challenge. It's challenging me to grow to new levels. It's challenging me to think in ways I haven't thought before. And so I'm being stretched. I'm grown. I'm building fresh relationships and friendships in a new city. And so I'm excited about it. And at the same time, there's some challenging moments. It's not comfortable. But we all know that, it's outside of the comfort zones that things grow. And so that's exciting for me. So, that's where I've been at really recently.
So true. Mark, if you were to plant a church, what would you focus on first?
Oh, wow. Big decision. Okay. Man, I would say ministry philosophy is probably my number one thing I'd look at, depending on the context and the culture that I was going to be planting in. Just, what's going to best equip the local church to make disciples in a post-Christian context. Because that is, if I were to plant a church right now, I'd say the United States, we're in a post-Christian context. As far as a culture, the UK, obviously, is one as well, where the church is doing phenomenal things. So I would look at that, what is the, do I centralize the church? Is it decentralized? What's going to best equip someone how to not just do Christian life on a Sunday morning, but in the Monday through Saturday as well. Yeah, so I'd start with that ministry philosophy. What is it that God is calling me to build before I go build it? And I think one of the hardest things in the world is trying to figure out what you're building while you're building it. It feels like you're changing a tire on a moving vehicle, which there's always an element to that. But and then I would say team. As team, people are the key to progress, and so you have the right team on board with you, no matter when the vision shifts or changes, or you have to pivot. Which was like the famous word of 2020 and the pandemic, but when you've got the right team of people around you, John Maxwell says that any leader, that they are successful because of the closest people they have around them and support. And so I would say that picking that team would be the first thing after ministry philosophy.
Awesome.
And just thinking about leadership and books, what is your favorite leadership book of all time?
All time. Can I pick two? I think,
sure.
Okay, so I would say John Maxwell's Developing the Leader Within is one of my favorite ones. I think it encompasses a lot of different leadership topics. Some of it's staffing, some of it's just personal self-leadership. And then Patrick Lencioni has a book called The Advantage, which is a great book on healthy organization. Smart organization versus healthy organization. You do need both in order to go where you're going. I'd say those two are probably some of my favorites.
Great. And we've touched on food,
and my new one on identity and purpose.
There we go.
Your new one on identity.
Yeah, my new one on identity is probably my favorite one. So
brilliant. We've touched on food, but what is one type or piece of food that you could not live without? Oh,
hands down sushi. It's hands down sushi.
Ooh.
Yeah, it would be.
Nice.
Yeah, I had it last night for dinner. Yeah, so it would be. It's not even up for debate. Yeah,
it's not even up to. And Nathan, what about
me?
You?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. It'd be chicken and rice, probably.
Oh, chicken and rice.
Oh, I like that.
Mine would be steak all the way.
Oh, steak all the way. I like it. Well, see, with sushi, you could put steak, chicken, rice. With sushi, you can kind of add it all.
Yeah.
Fish.
Do your own thing, can't you?
So, yeah. Great.
And if we were to think of your dream destination, where would that be? Where would you go?
Right now, I would say this might be an interesting answer. Right now, Israel. I've never been to Israel. I've never been to Jerusalem. I've never been to kind of the Holy Land, and I nerd out on all of that stuff. I love to research, know it. Obviously, it's such deep ties to the faith. So Israel, and then beyond that, probably Greece. I would, kind of Santorini type places. My wife and I, we love beaches and warm weather. We love when it's, 113 degrees Fahrenheit. So
yeah,
like it was here yesterday in America.
Yes.
And finally, the question we've all been waiting for since we mentioned it right at the start. Your favorite movie and why?
Wow. Okay. So this might be a little bit of a cheat. I don't know if it's an all-time, but I recently saw Top Gun, the new Top Gun movie. And I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah. Probably one of the best movies I've seen in 10 or 12 years. I loved that movie. I mean, I left charged. I left refreshed. I left just energized. I was like, wow, that was a great movie. And I didn't have the highest expectations for the movie. So I would just say right now.
That's probably why you enjoyed
That's
it.
probably why I like it so much. Yeah, so that's my why, because I had low expectations. No, but Top Gun for me was a great movie. There was a movie that I saw years ago, Shawshank Redemption. Man, one of my favorites. I'd say as well. I love a good plot, a good storyline, a little bit of thriller in it, perhaps. It's some of my favorites. But I watch all sorts of movies, from drama to like a Marvel movie. My wife even has me watching a few Hallmark movies, which I don't know if that's popular where you are, but it's a thing here. So yeah.
So someone has to
Somebody
do it.
has
Someone
to do
has
it.
to do it.
I do it for the marriage. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon the reason you like the Top Gun stuff, I think you probably see yourself as a little bit of a Tom Cruise. You know what I mean?
Probably find a little of my identity in that. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see it.
I'll put it in the book.
Yeah.
Put it in the book. Hey, it's been so good to have you with us on the show today, Mark. We really appreciate you sharing, and so thanks for connecting with us. Nathan, you're going to wrap up for us. Let people know what they need
Mark,
to do.
What is the best way for people to connect with you?
Oh yeah. Well, it's been an honor and a privilege to be a part of it. Best way to connect. Our website and email. So I'm just mark@thecollaborativeproject.org, mark@thecollaborative.org. Thecollaborativeproject.org is our website. And then you can always find me on social media. It's probably a great way to connect. Just my full name, Mark Kresge, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the above social media are great ways to connect. Great ways.
Awesome. Well, it's been great to have Mark with us, and it's been great to have you join us on the Church Explained podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're consuming this content. And also don't forget to check out icon.church/open for loads of free resources for you and your church. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the Church Explained podcast. We'll see you soon.